So this is my poor old Deere 445. It's about February, I think it's February the 23rd today, and the tractor's been sitting out here since early January. Reason being, I've got a seized motor. During some really cold weather, it was about -12, I believe, at the time. I got her out, started her up, and she started up fine. And then a light came on the dash, which I hadn't seen before. I immediately stopped and checked oil and fluids. Everything seemed fine, so I started her up again. Stupidly, I started running her. I was using the bucket to clear some ice and snow. And after a few minutes, she, lo and behold, she seized up. So she's been sitting here. I didn't want to pull her out because I understand that the hydrostatic transmissions can easily be damaged, even with the release lever in, properly opened. You can still damage the hydro transmission. I don't want to take that risk on top of everything else. So what I've done is I bought a used 445 engine, Kawasaki FD620D. Which I was going to quickly put in here, but the weather has been really bad. So what I did, instead of just throwing it in and then pulling this one to rebuild it, I did a rebuild on that engine. And I plan to, and I'm near the end of that rebuild, I'll put that one in here and see how this one is, and probably do a rebuild on this one and either sell one or keep one as a spare, because I also have the 425 as well. I guess the better news is when the weather got a little milder, I did try turning her very quickly, and she was turning at that point. She wasn't certainly before. So, I'm thinking that maybe there's less damage. Hopefully there's less damage than I at first feared. I think what probably happened was, in the cold weather, the oil pump plastic tooth gear probably broke, and so there wasn't oil pumping. But we'll see when I open her up, and when I get the engine out and open the engine up, we'll find out. But in the meantime, I've got that rebuild going on, and I'll show that in a minute, actually. So this is the Kawasaki FD620D engine that goes in obviously these are in 425s and 445 Deeres, that I've been working on. I purchased it. I paid $550 on from a vendor on eBay. I think it cost me about another $80 or so to ship it here, and I bought it as a running motor. I was told it had 800 hours. I decided, since I couldn't just drop it into my tractor immediately, because it's got to be done outside, and the weather was just too severe, I decided to open it up and take a good look, and I'm glad I did, because I found some wear in there. In all honesty, I would anticipate that it's got more than 800 hours on it, but nevertheless, it not too much damage or anything, or too much wear. So I took it apart. My basic concern was one of the pistons had some slack in the chamber, and in the cylinder, sorry, and I thought I might need to do a rebore. But when I started doing all the measurements, and obviously you do need the right tools for all this kind of thing, for micro measuring everything, I found that the tolerances weren't too bad at all. In fact, we were in operating service tolerance. So what I did was I stripped everything down, put new rings in, cleaned everything up. Obviously a lot of carbon and gunk deposits on the pistons, in the combustion chambers, and on the valves, and cleaned them up, reseated the valves, and checked obviously everything for wear, tappets, rocker gear, all the bearings, all the journals, and that sort of thing. Everything checked out okay. So basically I've replaced all the seals, and I'm replacing all the gaskets, and as you can see, I'm well on my way to reassembly at this point. Not too far to go, really. And I think everything checked out okay. No nasty cracks or in the block or on the heads. The heads look nice, and they didn't need planing or anything like that. They seem fine. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put this back together as soon as I get a dry day with temperatures that are going to make it possible. I'm going to switch this engine out, switch out the engine that's in the Deere 445 right now seized, and put this one in. Then I'm going to take a good look at that one, and hopefully I'll be able to do an easy rebuild on that one, and then I'll have either that one to put back in and pull this one back out, or it just depends, or because it might be nice just to keep the original in my 445, but or just leave this one in and hold the other one as a spare, or possibly even sell it. In fact, if anyone's interested in buying a recon engine, I might have one available in a few weeks. So that's the story here. It's nice actually to be able to do have the time to not just repair or rebuild, but to actually have the time to clean it up nicely and do all the little things that make a difference. So she's looking pretty good. One thing I did find is, and I'm sure other John Deere owners are aware of this, you can save a lot of money in parts by actually buying directly the Kawasaki parts rather than buying them as John Deere parts. Kawasaki spare parts seem to be at a lower price point than the equivalent John Deere ones. I guess John Deere basically just takes the Kawasaki parts and then puts their margin on top of that. And I've been buying my parts, and then by that I mean, you know, rings and gaskets and seals and that, from ATV Works. I think they're down in Arkansas. They seem very good. Their prices are really good in terms of discounts and that sort of thing, and they're very friendly and helpful there. So I can recommend those guys, certainly in my experience so far with them. So there she is. Again, had a really good cleaning. This, I don't know if this was an original steel camshaft unit on this, but whether it had been changed at some point or whether it was one of the original ones, but it's certainly, it's all steel, which was good. And I was told that when I bought the engine. But again, you know, I was pleased not to have to bore out the cylinders and buy new pistons and oversized rings. All I had to do was buy new rings. All the tolerances at different measurement points were just inside the operating tolerances. One on this side at the very top was like a borderline, but I decided to go with it because it was, you know, it wasn't, I don't think that would be a problem. So here we are, and obviously water pump, new pieces going in that, manifold. I've also got the injection unit that came with this, so I'll have a second injection kit for this. Yeah, and the stator I have as well. Flywheel I'm going to use off of my own tractor. So there we are. When it's, I'll close this out now, but when I'm in the process of pulling the other motor and putting this one in, maybe I'll put them in another video. Hope that people find this interesting and helpful. Take care.